But over the weekend, I watched Black Klansman, the Spike Lee film, and it was really interesting because it was an actual object lesson on how politics makes us stupid and how art, if we let it, will make us smart. My feeling about Spike Lee is that he's a talented director. I never thought he beat Do the Right Thing. He's a talented director, but his politics, his angry black power politics, and his tendency to lecture us and wag his finger at us and tell us which candidates we're supposed to vote for and which candidates are evil, reduces him to the level of Don Lemon at CNN, where he could use his talent to tell stories and let us draw some conclusions. And even though he's making overall political points, he gets in his own way a lot. However, this picture is an entertaining picture. It's got Denzel Washington's kid, John David Washington, very good actor. He plays a black cop in Colorado Springs, the first black cop in Colorado Springs, who one day just calls up the FBI and volunteers to be part of him. Here's just a little clip of him talking to David Duke on the phone.
Hello, this is Ron Stallworth calling. Well, who am I speaking with?
This is David Duke.
Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. That David Duke?
God, last time I checked. What can I do you for?
Well, since you asked, I hate blacks. I hate Jews, Mexicans and Irish, Italians and Chinese. But my mouth to God's ears, I really hate those black rats. And anyone else, really, that doesn't have pure white Aryan blood running through their veins.
I'm happy to be talking to a true white American.
God bless white America.
If you're just listening, you can't see as he's talking. The other cops are all white, are turning around, just cracking up, and they love leaning over his shoulder as he games these guys. And what he does is he sends a white cop in to be Ron Stallworth with the Ku Klux Klan, but he keeps talking to them on the phone, so he becomes the Black Klansman. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of Trump hate in this film, which is completely it's absurd. It's absurd. He links Trump to David Duke. He links Trump to the Ku Klux Klan, philosophically, which I just think is absurd. I mean, come on, and it degrades the film. It degrades the artistry of the film. If he had just left that out, I'm sure his audience would have come to the conclusions that he wanted them to come to. He also glamorizes Stokely Carmichael, who changed his name to Kwame Ture, an African name, and the ethos of Black Power. And he has several scenes of people espousing Black Power and the inspired look on Black people's faces. Black is beautiful, Black Power, and Kwame Ture says, "Oh, there's a race war coming, and arm yourself because we got to get ready for the race war." And the climax of the film, the emotional climax, not the plot climax, but the artistic climax clearly comes when two meetings take place simultaneously. One is the meeting of the Ku Klux Klan, and the other is a meeting at which an older black guy, played by Harry Belafonte, describes a true lynching of a poor mentally retarded guy. Just a terrible, disgusting story while his black audience looks on and listens and learns, okay? And both of these end with the people chanting. So the Ku Klux Klan, and it's disgusting. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan people are cheering on that horrible, that film, brilliantly made film, but a horrible film, The Birth of a Nation, which is a silent movie that romanticizes the Ku Klux Klan. And they mention that Woodrow Wilson loved this movie. He called it History Written with Lightning. What they don't mention is Woodrow Wilson was the first Democrat who won black votes after the Civil War because Lincoln was a Republican, and he was a virulent racist, and they have been voting for Democrat races ever since. And, Spike Lee should have taken a look at his own, gotten a history lesson from his own film. But the point is, these two meetings end the same way. They end with the Klansmen shouting white power and the black people shouting black power. And the way the film is set up, we clearly know that Spike Lee supports the people shouting black power, but thinks the people shouting white power are reprehensible. But what I thought, all I could think as I was looking at it was, the thing about art is that politics, you're just talking about stuff you already believe. You get stuck in your own beliefs. But art, when you create art, it speaks to you. It tells you things you didn't know before. And what I was seeing in this scene was that bigotry turns its victims into itself. Basically, when you just have somebody saying white power and you have somebody saying black power, who is going to choose to be on the opposing side? I mean, all you've got there is the kind of race war that Kwame Ture was supporting. In fact, there is a third way. And as I was watching this, I thought, oh, I get it. This is why Jesus said, love your enemies. That's, until I saw that scene, that statement never made sense to me. How do you love your enemies? How is that more than rhetoric? But of course you love your enemies because you don't want to turn into them. If you hate your enemies, you become them. And that's what that scene was showing. If Spike Lee had listened to his own art instead of to his own politics, he would have seen that, yes, of course, the treatment of whites in this, blacks in this country by some whites was reprehensible, but at every step of the way, it wasn't the American way. It was out of keeping with all the philosophy of America. That is why it finally collapsed. It didn't collapse because it was wrong. It collapsed because it was not in keeping with the American philosophy. If instead of saying, oh, you say white power, I say black power, blacks had said what Martin Luther King said, let us live out the meaning of our creed, things would be a little bit different now, I think, on some of these streets. Spike Lee let himself get caught in his own politics instead of listening to his art. And I think, listen, I say this knowing I'm a white guy, so you can say it's easy for me to say forgive. It's easy for me to say love your enemy. I mean, I've seen some prejudice against Jewish people in my life, but still, it's not the same thing. I get it, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means that my voice it's a little hard for my voice to communicate with people on the other side. I get that. But it still doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Obviously, this film shows a bad philosophy growing out of bad treatment. That's what happens. As I've said before, the devil does not care who does the hating as long as the hating gets done. If Spike Lee would watch his own movie, he might have learned that. It's an entertaining film. It's worth watching. You just got to overlook the Trump hate because it's just childish and silly.